Hi there, it's Nicole here today with a simple inked background scene card. This is based on a My Favorite Things sketch challenge. It's Sketch 361. If you want to see what that is, it will also be linked to on my blog. And this is just a really quick birthday card. Distress Oxide inks are fantastic on regular cardstock. They make creating an amazing background so easy. And this birthday card literally came together in under 30 minutes from start to finish, which is awesome. So it's also a design I think that works really good. It can work for men, women, boys, girls, either one, but I especially think it would be fantastic for a guy or a boy. I think sometimes men's birthday cards or more masculine birthday cards, boyish cards, are so hard to maybe come by some amazing products. And the greetings in this and the images, I think, work so awesome. I decided to use the birthday greeting. There's also a holiday greeting with skeezins, which is so cute, a little play on word. Greetings. There's you give me chills. Your snow easy to love. Ski you soon. Your snow cool. Lots and lots of different greetings. So it definitely would not have to be a birthday card. I love stamp sets like that will work for lots of different occasions. On some smooth white cardstock, I have stamped the 2 snowflake images from You Make My Heart Melt, another new stamp set from the November 2017 release. And I'm going to do a little embossed resist. The sketch has kind of a rounded edge along the bottom. Basically, it's just the top and then like the bottom third of the card are 2 separate type of areas. And I really kind of did something a little different as far as creating the ski slope for the bottom of my card. The top portion is going to feature like 2 elements. In this case, I'm going to have the greeting and the bear. And then it shows maybe adding some embellishments over to the left and over to the right. That is where my snowflakes come in. I'm creating circles of color with Distress Oxide inks in Peacock Feathers, Wilted Violet, and Black Soot. And then really working those colors together with my ink blending tools. Real quick, I have been asked quite a few times if I use separate tools for my Distress Oxide inks as opposed to the regular Distress inks, and I do not. I keep the same, I have tools for almost all of the colors, not quite all, but my most used definitely. And I go ahead and use the same inking tool for both. Periodically, I will replace the foam on them simply because it gets worn out or maybe it gets cross-contaminated with a darker color or something like that, and it just really isn't good anymore. I went ahead and buffed the ink off of the snowflakes so they are nice and bright white. Spritz the background with water from a distress sprayer and set that aside to completely dry. This is the Stitched Mod Rectangle STAX largest die, also from the November release. I love this die set, but I'm going to use it a little different. I actually just die cut the bottom edge to make this ski slope that's going to go along the bottom edge of the card. Now it's a little bit, the background I went ahead and inked it at 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. However, I'm going to trim it down. The die kind of made a funny little mark in the one corner. Plus, I want to frame up this whole scene and have a nice white border all the way around. So I've cut off 1/4 inch. This actually measures 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches now. And really, I'm just ready to add my sentiment and my bear. I'm going to grab the Misty, and along that sloped edge of the ski slope, I want to position my greeting that reads, "Have an extreme birthday." This is going to just be, just fit right here along that edge. I'm going to ink this up with Versamark ink after using a powder tool. And I decided I probably should let the background completely dry. You could hit it with a heat tool if you wanted to, but I was a little afraid that the distress ink or the embossing powder would stick to parts of my background. So while it's air drying, I decided to color the bear instead. And then I just left my stamp right there on my Misty tool at the top part of my Misty. And I'll come back to that in just a little bit as soon as my background is dry and my bear is all colored and die cut. The bear is stamped with the black hybrid ink. This is the black licorice ink from My Favorite Things. It's great for Copic coloring. The colors I'm using to color in all the little areas are shown across the bottom of the screen. E40, 43, 44, and 47 are used for the bear, with a little R00 for the inside of the ear. And I'm just going to get a really good blend with all my colors first, and then go back in with my darkest colors and add a little dotted detail that adds some nice texture. This is one of my favorite easy ways to add some texture to a stamped and colored image to help it maybe appear not quite so flat. I'm going to give that just a little bit to dry. It doesn't take long. These are alcohol ink-based markers, so they do dry quickly. However, the blue sweater is going to be a good example of if you oversaturate the paper, it can bleed. And my colors did bleed a little bit. The blues have a lot of colorless blender. These are all on the lighter end of the spectrum, especially B0000. That tells you right there with all those zeros that it has a lot of colorless blender in it, which means it can bleed easily if you don't give it enough time to dry between blending. And it is bleeding a little bit. I will fix that by just taking a white pen and covering it up. I tried to push some of the ink back inside of the stamped line with a colorless blender, but if that doesn't work, I didn't want to restamp this. I like to just take a white pen and kind of go over where it's bled outside the line and disguise that. But if you give your image a little bit longer to dry between blending, you will not have this problem. So that's what I did with the bear. That's why I waited to add the texture with the little dots and things. Just didn't want it to be oversaturated. I'm going to keep coloring in my sweater and my scarf until I get the blending the way I want. Here's that little dotted detail I was talking about on the bear. One of my very, very favorite things to do, here's that white pen that I'm using to disguise any of those little bleeding areas, my favorite thing is to add detail to the scarves. I love polka dots and stripes. I did a little stripe detail here, and I think it adds a lot to the design. The skis are going to be colored with some cool gray. I tried to go a little bit lighter with these, and I actually ended up getting a little darker than what I wanted because I want to use the cool gray markers for the boots as well. And I felt like they were blending together too much, so I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to fix that. Again, another small mistake that can be fixed without having to restamp and recolor an image. I'm a big fan of trying to find ways to fix the mistakes rather than starting over from scratch. So I decided to concentrate on the boots, and then I'm going to take a colorless blender, and this time it's pushing that ink away, but it also kind of helps lighten the skis just a little bit. I die cut that with the coordinating die. Now I have stamped the greeting with Versamark ink right there along the ski edge or the snow slope edge. Adding some white embossing powder, I'm going to heat set this. I like to hit both the front and the back of my panel. This will help eliminate the warping that can happen. Kind of helps flatten out the design a little bit. And very simple background, but really effective and really fun. I'm going to tuck that bear right underneath the edge of the ski slope, using some adhesive here to attach that. And finally, I want to finish my card by adding just a little bit of a dimensional embellishment and adding detail to the bear itself. I always like to finish an image by going over the eye or the nose with a black pen to really draw attention to the cute face. And then I decided to finish out the design. It feels a little barren, I guess, up at the top. The snowflakes are definitely doing what I want them to do, but I want to add to that snowy feel, and one of my favorite products to do that with is the Nuvo Crystal Drops in the gloss white or simply white. It's a fantastic opaque white. It adds amazing detail, and I think it's just so much fun. I really love the detail of these little drops. You can create them in any size you want. I added a scattering all over the background of my card, and it really ties the whole thing together while still keeping the card very clean and simple. Nuvo drops, crystal drops, do need to completely dry for about 24 hours. They will be dry to the touch after maybe an hour, but you don't want to put anything on top of them. You don't want to put it in an envelope or anything like that, simply because they could get smashed or flattened at the top, and that just kind of ruins the look. So make sure that you have enough time to set this aside to dry for a good 24 hours before you try to mail it or anything like that. And I got a little adhesive sticking out from underneath, so I'm going to fix that real quick. And I accidentally smudged some of my Nuvo Crystal Drops. Luckily, I'm able to fix that. Sometimes that can be kind of a big bummer, but luckily I just went back over it and fixed it, and that will finish off this extreme birthday clean and simple skiing card. Thanks for joining me today for this card featuring my favorite things, stamps and dies. The design is based on Sketch 361. Please check it out at My Favorite Things. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring my favorite things that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.